Good morning and welcome to the courtroom of Academia BSB. This is June 15th, 2025. We are your teachers, presiding over the case file from our English Conversations course.
Yes, specifically, we're examining the notes from June 12th, 2025. These were prepared for our very diligent students, Miraili and Sophia. And this session, it presented some really fascinating evidence. Communication, societal norms, it's all in there.
It is indeed. And our mission here for you, our listeners, especially you aiming for those top universities, is to really dissect the crucial facts, the sort of legal precedents from this documentation.
It's all part of building those robust English skills you need. You know, hitting and exceeding that B1 level benchmark from the CEFRL.
Exactly. Mastering comprehension, production, interaction, mediation, all key language competencies. Paramount.
Today's docket, well, it features a really compelling theme. We're calling it Navigating the Lexicon, Oral Arguments on Language and Rights. Catchy, eh?
I like it. And beneath the surface, we'll uncover some critical grammar statutes, too.
Right. Specifically, those exceptions that really test the rules, irregular plurals, and the fundamental structure of the verb to be, especially in spatial and temporal contexts, through that there be construction.
Okay, let's open with some key testimony. We'll jump ahead slightly in the case file, straight to Exhibit G. It's a foundational reading passage, really sets the stage for our discussion on rights and communication. The text on Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. I'll present this evidence now.
All right, pay close attention, everyone. This document presents, a powerful argument, how communication, even nonviolent communication, can trigger huge societal shifts. Listen up.
Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, 1869-1948, known as Mahatma Gandhi, was an Indian lawyer, nationalist, and political leader. He championed nonviolent resistance to achieve India's independence from British rule. Born in Gujarat, studied law in London, spent 21 years in South Africa.
South Africa, yes. That's where he first used these nonviolent methods, wasn't it? Fighting racial discrimination.
Exactly. Returning to India in 1915, he led movements against poverty, discrimination, British colonial policies, promoting self-rule, Swaraj, social reform, religious harmony.
Famous actions like the Salt March, the Quit India movement, pivotal moments.
Absolutely. But despite advocating for unity, between Hindus and Muslims, India's partition in 1947 led to widespread violence. Gandhi tried to stop it, peace missions, hunger strikes.
Tragic irony, really.
It was. On January 30th, 1948, he was assassinated by Nathuram Godse, a Hindu nationalist. But Gandhi's legacy, it endures. October 2nd is the International Day of Nonviolence, and Gandhi Jayanti in India. He's honored as the father of the nation.
You know, what's really fascinating here is the sheer structural challenge his communication posed. I mean, nonviolent communication. In theory, facing an armed empire with, peaceful protest, it seems almost illogical.
Right. Seems counterintuitive.
But in reality, it worked. It helped dismantle that empire. It forced the oppressor, you see, to reckon with their own actions, right there under global scrutiny. It's a compelling argument for moral power over, brute force.
Interesting point. But I feel I must present a counter-argument here, Counselor. While the ideal of nonviolence is compelling, couldn't one argue that focusing solely on it, it risks leaving people vulnerable? Vulnerable to continued exploitation.
How so?
Well, we've seen situations in history, haven't we, where nonviolent protests were met with just extreme violence, and change only really came through other means, or maybe a combination of pressures economic, maybe even armed resistance sometimes, to the complex verdict, isn't it? Was nonviolence alone the deciding factor? Or did global political shifts play a perhaps equally significant role in India's independence?
That's a fair challenge, raises an important question. And yes, external factors undoubtedly contributed, but what really stands out in Gandhi's case, I think, is how his method leveraged those factors. See, by refusing to meet violence with violence, he completely shifted the narrative. He exposed the brutality of the colonial power to the entire world stage. His disciplined adherence to nonviolence wasn't just some tactic. It became the moral compass. It galvanized millions, and frankly, it discredited the opposition. It's just such a powerful example of how communication, the right communication, can change the course of history.
Okay, fair point. The discipline required.
Yeah.
It is indeed remarkable. And analyzing texts like this from differing viewpoints, much like we interpret laws, it really does provide a more comprehensive understanding.
Okay, let's pivot now. Backtracking slightly in the file to Exhibit A. This is the vocabulary presented in the current session. This lexicon, this glossary, it's crucial for navigating the complex societal briefs we're discussing today. We really must grasp the precise meaning of these terms to form a clear judgment.
Precisely. The notes highlight terms absolutely central to these discussions around human rights, communication. Take, for instance, gender inequality, a topic of, frankly, immense gravity.
Still so relevant, sadly.
Unfortunately, yes, both in Brazil and in many English-speaking countries, though perhaps expressed differently. And then there's toxic masculinity, a concept used to describe certain harmful cultural norms associated with, well, maleness.
And understanding, deconstructing, examining the underlying assumptions behind these concepts, that's key too.
Absolutely. These terms let us articulate issues that are, as we said, still prevalent.
Yeah.
The legal frameworks might differ country to country, but the issues often resonate.
Exactly. The notes also list terms like exploitation, and it's important to highlight its grave distinction from, say, exploration.
Years difference.
Massive. And of course, human rights, the central theme running through this whole session. We also see words related to addressing sensitive topics respectfully, like that list concerning disabilities and health impairments.
Oh, yes, that's vital. Using appropriate terminology there is paramount.
It really is. The notes detail terms like deaf, wheelchair user, anxiety disorder, autism spectrum disorder, and quite a few others. Using this precise lexicon isn't just about vocabulary, it's about respectful communication.
And then there are useful everyday terms too, right? Defining things like discipline, heritage, actions like to lose weight, to give an excuse.
Yeah, and even workplace language. To be fired, maternity leave, minimum wage salary, it's a broad mix.
Understanding all these terms, even the seemingly simple ones, it expands your ability, your capacity to discuss complex topics across diverse contexts. You need the right tools for the job.
Well said. Now, the case file also includes Exhibit B. These are the pronunciation mandates for the session. Look, achieving fluency requires clear articulation. There's just no room for misinterpretation in the courtroom of conversation. Precision here, non-negotiable.
Absolutely. The notes highlight words central to today's themes and also words that, well, they pose phonetic challenges. Take terms like feminism, Nazism, communism, and capitalism, foundational concepts. Listen carefully as we pronounce them. Feminism, Nazism, communism, capitalism.
Let's put them in simple sentences. Helps cement the sound. Feminism advocates for equality.
Nazism caused immense suffering.
Communism is an economic theory.
Capitalism is a widespread system. Understanding these pronunciations allows for, neutral discussion of these sometimes charged ideologies.
And a very common pitfall, you see this a lot, is the pronunciation of irregular plurals, like woman and women. Listen closely. Woman, singular. Women, plural.
That vowel sound change is significant, isn't it? A woman walked in versus the women gathered. Completely different.
Exactly. Another point of attention. Different and specific. Got to pronounce those with clarity. Different, specific. Sounds simple, but easy to stumble over.
And sometimes you get those false similarities, right? Similar spellings that can lead you astray in pronunciation, like distinguishing neo from new.
Good example. Neoclassical sounds quite distinct from just new. Mastering these nuances ensures your own oral arguments, your contributions to any discussion, are heard and, crucially, understood correctly.
All right. Let's move jurisdiction now to Exhibit C. We're turning our attention to the foundational statutes of English grammar. Today, we analyze those exceptions that test the rule, irregular plurals, and the fundamental there be structure.
Ah, yes. Build upon the often irregular verb to be.
Irregular plurals. They really defy that standard ad-s rule, don't they? They require specific memorization, much like remembering legal precedents, actually.
Good analogy.
And they're particularly relevant today because words like man, woman, and person, key terms in discussions of rights and equality, they all have irregular plural forms, men, women, and people.
Exactly. And the notes list other common ones, too. Child becomes children, mouse becomes mice, foot becomes feet. You just have to learn them.
And those tricky ones from Latin or Greek.
Yeah, right. They often keep their original plural forms, like medium to media, criterion to criteria, or phenomenon to phenomena. Understanding these ensures accuracy, especially in academic or formal contexts, when you're referring to groups or multiple instances.
Okay, now the there be structure. It's fundamental, isn't it? A declaration of existence. It tells us something exists or is located somewhere or happens at a particular time.
And it's built on those conjugations of the irregular verb to be, is, are, was, were, will be, and the verb has to agree with the noun that follows it. That's the key.
So for the present tense.
We use there is for a singular noun or an uncountable noun, like there is a book on the table or there is water in the glass. But for a plural noun, it's there are. There are students in the classroom, or there are many problems. This describes existence now.
Got it. And for the past tense.
The statute reads, there was for singular or uncountable. There was a tree here last year, and there were for plural. There were many people at the event. This is for things that existed in the past. Simple enough.
And the future. Seems easier.
It is. The rule is straightforward. There will be works for all nouns, singular, plural, or uncountable. There will be a party tomorrow. There will be new opportunities. It refers to future existence. No case distinctions there.
But it's absolutely critical to avoid those common linguistic misdemeanors, right? Like mismatching the verb form with the noun.
Oh, definitely. Saying, there is 2 cats. That's a clear error of procedure.
It should be.
There are 2 cats. You absolutely must match the be verb form to the number singular or plural of the noun that immediately follows it.
Mastering this structure is just vital for describing the existence or presence of people, places, things, whether you're talking about tangible items or, abstract concepts like inequalities or opportunities. It's everywhere.
Okay, I think this court could use a brief recess.
Order. Court is adjourned briefly.
Welcome back to Academia BSB's Judicial Chambers. Before we proceed with the case, let's quickly recap the testimony presented so far.
Good idea. We started with Exhibit G, the Gandhi text, analyzing arguments around nonviolent communication and its impact. Then we moved to Exhibit A, key vocabulary for societal issues, followed by Exhibit B, refining pronunciation of crucial terms.
And just before the break, Exhibit C, dissecting the grammar statutes, those tricky irregular plurals, and the fundamental there-be structure.
Precisely. Now, counselor, time for a brief verbal agility trial. Let's test our pronunciation agility.
Hit me with it.
Okay, try this tongue twister using terms from today's lexicon. The different women deconstructing discipline find free market fundamentalism faulty.
Ooh, tricky. The different women deconstructing discipline find free market fundamentalism faulty. How was that?
A successful execution, counselor. Nicely done. Now back to the evidence.
All right. Let's call Exhibit H to the stand. This presents another key document, this time for speaking practice. A king, a constitution, and the family revolution.
Ah, yes. This text uses a rather compelling analogy, doesn't it?
That's it.
Discussing societal change, touching upon themes of structure, authority, equality, communication. It really reinforces many points from our session.
It does. And this text requires not just reading, but like performance. You need to focus on those specific highlighted terms, convey the meaning. It connects concepts like family structure to those broader ideologies we mentioned earlier, feminism, capitalism, communism, and reinforces the importance of individual voices.
And grammatically.
It contains examples of both irregular plurals, women, men, and irregular verbs like was, will, create. So it aligns perfectly with our grammar review.
Okay, I'll read the full text verbatim. As I read, everyone listening, try to catch the rhythm, the emphasis, the underlying argument. There is always something important to learn in every family. In the past, there was a time when only one woman or one man decided everything at home, like a king in a castle. But now things are different because the world has changed with movements like feminism, where women and men have equal voices. In some places, people talk about capitalism or communism to explain society, but at home, we do not need these big words. What we need is care, attention, and patience with each other. Every family has its own constitution of rules, even if they are not written, and these rules are specific for each house. My grandmother always says that being kind is better than being right because kindness builds trust.
Wise words.
Indeed. In the future, there will be neo ways to be together, like using new technology to stay close, even when we are far. Friends and family members will need to understand that everyone is different, and that makes life beautiful. There was Nazism and other bad moments in history that taught us the importance of respect. Now, when we help each other, we create a better world where we can grow as individuals and as a team. So if you want to be a good family member or friend, remember, follow your house's constitution, respect specific needs, and never forget to listen, because every voice matters, even the quietest one.
A powerful little text. Now let's revisit some of those highlighted terms. Focus on the pronunciation points we discussed earlier and maybe some specific nuances we saw. Was, right? Past tense of to be.
And that crucial distinction, woman, singular, versus women, plural. That vowel shift again.
Same with man and men. Gotta get that vowel right. Note the clear articulation needed for words like important, different, and specific. Those multisyllable words need care.
We also encounter those ideologies again: feminism, capitalism, communism, and the historical reference was Nazism. And the notes also highlighted king, family, constitution.
And that contrast between neo and new, paying close attention to these sounds, practicing them, ensures your own oral arguments are persuasive, understood, not misinterpreted.
Okay, let's bring forth Exhibit D. This deals with the practical application of language. Use of language, including idiomatic expressions. These phrases are crucial for real-world communication, presenting your case persuasively, maybe.
Or perhaps politely requesting a postponement.
Exactly. The notes provide valuable examples here, like distinguishing how language is used in theory versus in reality. That distinction is so critical when discussing abstract rights compared to their actual practical application.
It really is. Think about it. On paper, we have equal rights. That's the theory.
Versus, in reality, there are many differences. That's the lived experience, the factual observation. A stark contrast you often see when comparing legal texts to reality. Highly relevant to our theme today.
Let's try using them. You start.
Okay. In theory, everyone should have access to quality healthcare.
But in reality, there are significant disparities based on income and location. See, it works perfectly.
The notes also include phrases vital for, well, managing conversations, like giving excuses. Let's face it, sometimes you need to adjourn the discussion politely.
Happens to the best of us. Let's try these in a quick role play. Can you help me review this case brief right now?
Sorry, I gotta go. I have work to do. See, gotta. Informal, but common. That was a polite excuse.
Okay. What about this situation? Phone ring simulation.
Ooh, my mom is calling. I need to go. Perfect for ending a call or conversation quickly.
Or just when you're overwhelmed. I'm tired. I need to sleep now. Simple, direct.
Good examples. Finally, under this exhibit, the idiomatic expression to play dumb. What does that mean, counselor?
To play dumb. It means pretending you don't understand something or pretending you don't know something, usually to avoid trouble or maybe responsibility.
Like feigning ignorance.
Exactly. It's generally seen as a risky tactic in court, I'd say, and probably in life too. For instance, he just played dumb when the boss asked why the report wasn't finished, pretending he had no idea.
Got it. A useful phrase to understand, even if not always advisable to use.
Precisely. Okay, let's take another brief recess. Court is adjourned.
All rise. The session is back in order. Let's quickly review the evidence presented just before that last break.
Right. We examined Exhibit H, the King, Constitution, Family Revolution text, analyzing its analogy and practicing those key pronunciations within it.
Then we moved to Exhibit D, exploring practical use of language and idiomatic expressions, focusing on phrases for theoretical versus real situations, and those ever-useful polite excuses.
Yeah.
And to play dumb.
Exactly. And now, counselor, another test of linguistic dexterity is in order.
I'm ready.
Prepare for this tongue twister. Using terms from our recent exhibits, preemptive feminism fights toxic masculinity in reality, not just in theory.
Ooh, nice addition. Preemptive feminism fights toxic masculinity in reality, not just in theory. Nailed it.
Splendid performance. Now, back to the case file. Let's examine Exhibit I.
The writing assignment. This outlines the task of crafting, essentially, a legal brief, an essay on Mahatma Gandhi's enduring influence, justice, human rights. It brings it all together.
Indeed. This exercise demands synthesis, analysis, and importantly, structured argumentation based on the source material, the reading text we looked at earlier, and any related documentaries mentioned in the notes.
The purpose is clearly stated. Summarize key points. Support them with your own reflection. Critical thinking is key. Identify Gandhi's achievements, yes, but also the struggles. Explain the impact of nonviolence, and crucially, link his legacy to modern society.
And there are specific requirements too, aren't there? You're required to use specific connectors. Things like in addition, furthermore, however, as a result, therefore. These structure the argument.
And some specific idiomatic expressions too, like to stand up for, make a difference, leave a mark, and change the course of history. Integrating these shows a higher level of fluency.
Now, the notes show placeholders for the student's work, the first draft, and the second draft, which incorporates the teacher's feedback, highlighted as Teacher's Enhancement Insights.
Right. We don't have the actual content of Mir Riley's and Sophia's drafts in this case file, but we can discuss the process. That feedback loop is paramount, isn't it?
Absolutely. Receiving constructive criticism, guidance on refining the argument, strengthening the structure, improving language use, that's how strong writing is built. The goal is to produce a polished, final version, something potentially suitable for publication, maybe on the Academia BSB student blog, students.AcademiaBSB.com.br blog.
That iterative process of drafting, getting feedback, revising.
Yeah.
That's how compelling arguments and compelling legal briefs are ultimately constructed.
Precisely. Now, quickly turning to Exhibit J, this highlights the listening component. We don't have specific audio transcribed here, but this skill is, well, absolutely crucial for comprehensive English competency.
You can't just talk. You have to understand. Effective communication hinges on truly understanding what's being said. This section requires you, the listener, to engage actively with real-life, native English audio materials.
Documentaries, news reports, conversations, anything authentic. It's like being present for actual courtroom testimony. You have to capture the nuance, the tone, the underlying meaning. It builds your ability to comprehend English as it's naturally spoken.
And closely related is Exhibit K watching, complementing listening with visual input.
Right. Engaging with visual media, movies, news broadcasts, TV series from English-speaking countries provides critical context. You get language use and context, cultural understanding, nonverbal cues.
It's like examining visual evidence alongside the audio testimony, isn't it? It builds that holistic comprehension of English in its natural habitat. Integrates sounds, visuals, cultural cues, essential preparation for immersion, whether you're aiming for an Ivy League college or just traveling.
Couldn't agree more. Now, Exhibit E takes us back briefly, a review of past testimony, vocabulary from a previous session.
Right, because mastery requires revisiting prior case files, ensuring retention. The notes included exercises for this, completing sentences, matching words to meanings, multiple choice, correcting errors, standard practice, but vital.
Yes, reviewing these helps solidify the lexicon, making sure words like shy, tired, sociable, impolite from past lessons become part of your active repertory, ready to be deployed in conversation or writing.
And those error correction exercises, they're like amending a flawed legal brief. Identifying and eliminating common structural mistakes is key to clarity.
And similarly, Exhibit F touched on pronunciation from a past class. Reinforcing correct sounds, especially those tricky ones, is vital for clear communication. Can't let pronunciation errors undermine your case.
Absolutely. The notes highlighted sounds that often trip up learners, like distinguishing vowels in law versus lawn, or those initial consonants in tree versus three, the infamous huss sound.
Exactly. Practicing those ensures clarity. Remembering careful articulation for multisyllable words like messenger, research, conducted. Rehearsing these sounds ensures your testimony, your spoken English, is accurately received. No confusion allowed.
Okay, let's take one final brief recess.
The court will reconvene shortly.
Court is reconvened. Let's quickly review the points covered since our last break. We discussed the crucial essay writing process exhibit, emphasizing drafting and feedback.
Then we touched on the importance of exhibits J and K, listening and watching real-life English materials for comprehensive understanding.
And we took a brief look back at Exhibits E and F, reviewing past vocabulary and pronunciation exercises from prior sessions to ensure retention and accuracy.
All right, counselor, prepare for the final test of verbal agility. Last tongue twister for today. This one uses terms from past lessons. Ready?
Bring it on.
Okay. The shy waiter was too tired to conduct thorough research assigned by the messenger.
Ooh, combining a few. The shy waiter was too tired to conduct thorough research assigned by the messenger.
Phew! Got it. Excellent. Nicely navigated. Now, before we reach our final verdict on this session, let's briefly review the student performance metrics. The notes include those class stats.
Right. Things like vocabulary growth, lexicon repertory, oral fluency, listening wavelength, and that phonetic deviation ratio.
These metrics, Riley and Sophia, they show your progress. Your lexicon repertory is clearly expanding. Your oral fluency is developing well. Now, there are always areas to refine. That phonetic deviation ratio points to specific sounds that still need a bit of focused attention, perhaps.
But consistent effort across all these domains, that's how you build towards that B1 level proficiency, and frankly, well beyond it. Keep up the great work.
Absolutely. And while you are both outstanding students, clearly aiming for the highest echelons of academia, remember, even the most brilliant legal minds must adhere to procedure.
Consider this a gentle, lighthearted reminder from the bench. Academia BSB does have a clear methodology and, well, completing assigned homework. It's a non-negotiable part of the process. Consider it mandatory legal research.
Compliance with the methodology ensures the most favorable outcome in your language learning journey. Simple as that.
Okay, now as we move towards concluding today's session, this whole examination of human rights, communication, societal structures, It really echoes themes explored in some foundational works of English literature, doesn't it?
It does. I was thinking, for example, of Harper Lee's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel To Kill a Mockingbird.
Ah, classic. Published back in 1960, right in the midst of the American Civil Rights Movement. Lee's book gives this fictional yet incredibly insightful look at racial injustice, moral courage, all set in the American South.
It's such a powerful exploration of prejudice, compassion, and, importantly, standing up for what is right. Much like the principles championed by Gandhi and related to the themes of human rights and equality we discussed today from the class notes.
And Harper Lee herself, a relatively private writer from Alabama, she crafted this story through the eyes of a child, Scout Finch. That offers such a unique perspective on really complex societal issues and even the legal system itself.
There's that key passage, isn't there? The one that resonates so strongly with our discussion on communication, on understanding different viewpoints. It's when Atticus Finch advises Scout. What was it exactly?
You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view.
Until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. That's the one.
Exactly. It just perfectly underscores the importance of empathy, doesn't it? A crucial element, not just in human rights advocacy, but in effective communication itself. Being able to genuinely see and understand different perspectives, that's absolutely key to navigating the lexicon and navigating the world.
Beautifully put. A vital closing thought.
And so with that, we conclude the hearing on the June 12th case file.
The evidence presented today is clear. Language is an incredibly powerful tool. It's capable of building bridges, articulating rights, and truly shaping understanding between people.
At Academia BSB, our final unwavering judgment is this.
It is not only about the language.
It is all about communication.